Javon from the Small in Javon, West Virginia. This is Javon Small. It's a podcast about Javon Small basketball. I wish I was Javon Small. West Virginia beats the number 2 team in the country by 7 on Jerry West Day. So very cool day. West Virginia had the beautiful retro jerseys on. West family in the house. 14,144 attendance for the game. Jerry West wear 44. I'm sure there was 14,144 people there. Can we talk about how Javon got his 27 points? Buckle up. This is a Javon Small podcast. And if you watch the first 12 minutes of the game, you wouldn't think that this was a Javon Small podcast. Didn't score. Finally gets an open look from 3 and makes it. So he's on the board. A few minutes later, Toby Okani gets a block. West Virginia played great defense near the rim. Javon gets it, passes it to JP on the break. JB misses the layup, but Javon elevates, goes over Sincere Harris for the putback. Makes Iowa State call timeout. I think West Virginia took the lead for the first time in a while. Iowa State misses a 3 out of the timeout. Javon runs back and makes a circus scoop layup that in most games that'd be the highlight of the game. And yet we've been watching Javon Small all season. We've seen versions of that play where he does something ridiculous, where he finishes near the rim and falls down. Great. More great to come. But to recap the first half, he goes scoreless for the first 12 minutes, scores 7 in the last 8, and West Virginia has a 1-point lead. And they have a 1-point lead going into halftime because of Amani Hansberry. 3 threes in the first half. He's come back with a vengeance. He's been on a heater the last 2 games. Talked about how important his offense is, especially with really good defensive teams like Houston and Iowa State. He can get that pick and pop, and he's shooting it with confidence. We're getting back to early season Amari Hansberry, and that's coming at a great time. Then the second half comes, and early in the second half, we get a play that you know why this is a Javon Small podcast today. Shot clock running down. He's on the left side, loses a dribble. Clock's running down. He's right inside the 3-point line. So it's not like he's exactly close to the basket. Doesn't have his dribble, nowhere to go. Spins, then reverse spins to the left, gets some space, and hits a running bank shot. As the shot clock expires, to put that kind of touch on a bank shot that was like a step or 2 inside the 3-point line and make it look smooth like that, it's a horse shot. Let's be very clear. You would say, I'm going to spin 3 times, reverse spin, bank shot in your backyard. That's what Javon Small did on that play. And that was a sign of things to come. And yet he doesn't score for almost 10 minutes after that ridiculous play. So 12-minute stretch in the first half, he didn't score. 10 minutes in the middle of the second half where Javon Small does not score the basketball, and West Virginia's got this game close. And then after those 10 minutes, I would argue this is the play of the game. Once again, the shot clock is running down. This time he does have his dribble, so that is an advantage. Near the top of the key, draws another Iowa State defender, so 2 guys on him. This time he reverse spins to the right, splits the defenders, shoots another runner, doesn't need the glass on this one, and the play-by-play guy says ridiculous. And he ain't wrong. That was a ridiculous play. My wife walked into the room right after that play happened and saw my face and asked me what was wrong. That play by Javon Small made me look like something was wrong. Like I had seen a ghost. Like eyes wide, mouth agape. For a long period of time, it's not like she walked in right after the play. It was a few seconds after. That's how good Javon Small is. he makes, and I'm a fan of WVU, and he's doing plays that make me give looks like like I've seen the supernatural. Then he finishes a tough drive to the basket a little bit later. Now I got to take a break on the Javon recap for an Ed Andre 3000 highlight. Ed gets a clean steal as Iowa State's trying to feed the high post. And so there's a lot of real estate between where he steals the ball and West Virginia's basket. And Ed's going down. Ed's running down, dribbling the ball. And we've seen this before. Ed gets a little dribble happy sometimes. And when he's handling the ball, it's always a wild ride, right? Sometimes it doesn't finish great. This ride ended with him at the basket, finishing the layup, getting fouled, and finishes the three-point play. And I think Coach DeVries in the post-game press conference said if Ed would have heard me, I'm glad he didn't hear me because I was saying stop. I believe that was his coaching was stop doing that. Ed did not stop, got to the basket, got the and one. It's almost like Sincere Harris shooting threes. I guess you got to let 6'11" Ed Andre 3000 dribble long lengths of the court sometimes. Sometimes you got to let Ed go because he can do that. In this game is neck and neck, and Ed Andre is dribbling down the court. I guess we gotta deal with that, and it ended up in a positive play. Back to Javon. Draws a foul, makes his free throws to give West Virginia a 4-point lead with 5.5 minutes left. Now we're under 2 minutes left. West Virginia's up 2 after Joe Yesufu's only basket of the game, a driving tough layup. West Virginia gets a stop. Amani gets the rebound, passes it to Javon on the left side. I want him dribbling the length of the court. And he's driving. He's at the three-point line, and nobody's in front of him. There's Iowa State players between him and the basket, none in his way. So after a hesitation, he's like, here I go. Gets to the basket, finishes and one. And that puts West Virginia up 5 because he makes a free throw. He made all of his free throws tonight. Then he gets a steal on Iowa State's next possession, draws a foul, makes both free throws. West Virginia up 7. Iowa State scores, and now West Virginia up 5 with a minute left. Javon's running clock near half court. Amani runs up for the screen. I don't think he actually sets a screen, but it's enough to get Javon some space and step back dagger 3. Crowd goes crazy. Tony goes crazy. The announcers on ESPN Plus go crazy. And that's the dagger that put this game away. And then Javon still scores 4 more points after that, including a icing on the cake run-out dunk. I hope that's not boring. It's not boring for me to say it out loud, all of Javon scoring. And shout out to Coach DeVries. Javon played, depending on where you look, 35, 36 minutes, probably in between. So that's 4 minutes and change of rest, but that's a big deal. I mean, Kansas, he played all 40 minutes. 38 minutes here and there, 36 minutes, and Coach DeVries was strategic with it, getting him rest after timeouts. He actually called a timeout in the middle of that second half to reset. A minute later was a TV timeout, kept Javon on the bench for maybe 1 or 2 possessions, got him back into the game. Those little stretches makes a big difference in fuel in the tank. We watched the Houston game. Javon was running on empty at the end of that one. This game, in the last 2 minutes, he was hot fire. And some of that, most of that goes to Javon Small being incredible, but some of that goes to Darren DeVries picking his spots. You gotta get Javon off the court, and you can do that with KJ back. And it's not a ton of time. I mean, you're counting the seconds when you're watching the offense and you're like, please, let's get Javon back in there. But you got to do it. You got to give the man a chance to have legs underneath him. I don't think he hits that dagger three if he doesn't have his legs, and he has his legs because of how Coach DeVries got him some rest in this game. So shout out to Coach DeVries there. And for the coaching staff, West Virginia is now 4-0 coming off of losses. And that's always impressive. I mean, it's college basketball. The best teams in the country do not have a 0 in the loss column. Everybody loses. Coach DeVries has been a head coach now for 6.5 seasons. In 6.5 seasons, this man has had 9 losing streaks, and none of them were longer than 3 in a row. And to use a comparison point, prior to Darren DeVries showing up in Morgantown, in the last 2 seasons, WVU basketball prior to Coach DeVries, West Virginia had 10 losing streaks, and 3 of those were longer than 3 games. They had 7 last season. So 6.5 seasons, 9 of them. West Virginia, and yes, that was one of their worst seasons in program history. But they got 7 in 1 season, and he's got 9 in 6.5. It's impressive. That's coaching. That's getting your guys ready coming off a loss. Shout out to the coaching staff. But I'm breaking down Javon's scoring. You and I both know that that's not the only thing Javon's doing. If you're just looking at the box score, and I know we're watching the game, but look at the box score. He leads the team in scoring with 27. He leads the team in rebounding with 7. He leads the team in assists, 5 assists, and he leads the team in steals with 4. So he's doing it all. And that's nothing new. And it just, you go into this season, I mean, my experience with Javon Small prior to him committing to West Virginia was the 1 game against Oklahoma State in a forgettable season in Stillwater. I don't remember. Now, this is a credit to how bad last season was. I don't remember. I know I didn't say on the podcast, watch out for that Javon Small. He's good at basketball. But I knew he'd be a starter for the team because he played in the Big 12. I knew he'd be a leader of the team because he's going with Coach DeVries and Tucker to Kansas City for Big 12 Media Day. But very few people, including myself, had on their radar that Javon Small, midway through the 2024-2025 season, had Javon as the leading scorer in the Big 12. Obviously, one of the top candidates for Big 12 Player of the Year. We're 6 games in. And he's in the conversation for first-team All-American. I'm not shooting the moon there. And this isn't the first game he's been like this. This is the one that stands out because all of the ridiculous shots that he made and the clutch shots he made at the end. This wasn't him hot for 3. He was doing everything. First-team All-American, by my recollection, that's 5 guys. So that puts him midway through the season as one of the 5 best players in Division I basketball. It's amazing to watch. It really is. And without Tucker DeVries, West Virginia is now 7-2. Without their second best player, West Virginia is 7-2. They're 4-2 in the Big 12. And 2 of those wins in the Big 12 is over Kansas in Allen Fieldhouse, and today against number 2 Iowa State. They came into this game winning 12 in a row. On what's on paper the toughest week of the schedule, West Virginia gets a split. That you take that. You absolutely take that. And believe me, there's more losses to come. The loss column isn't going to be 4 for this team. But let me just throw this out. There's 7 weeks of the Big 12 schedule left before the Big 12 tournament, 2 games a week. If West Virginia goes 1-1, let's say they split every week for the last 7 weeks of the season, that's 11-9 in the Big 12. That you're in the top half of the conference, and you're absolutely making the NCAA tournament. It's not a bubble team. 11-9 in the Big 12 is a no-doubt NCAA tournament team with the resume wins that this team has. And some of you hear that and say, Josh, I'd be disappointed if West Virginia went 7-7 the rest of the way. And what I'll tell you is that I won't be disappointed if they did that, but you're not wrong to feel that way. You're not wrong. Unreasonable Doubt is under the Smoking Musket umbrella. Go to smokingmusket.com. Read posts about WVU sports, daily throwdown. Check that out. Go to the Discord. We're talking about WVU sports and other stuff on the Smoking Musket Discord. Link for that is in the show notes. Listen to West by Pod, the WVU football podcast under the Smoking Musket umbrella. Do all that stuff. Smoking Musket. The next game for WVU is Tuesday, the rare 9 p.m. home game in the Coliseum. CBS Sports Network, so back on cable television, and they'll face the Arizona State Sun Devils. On paper, this past week was the toughest week of the Big 12 schedule. Now West Virginia, on paper, this coming week, gets the easiest week of the Big 12 schedule. Home with 1-5 Arizona State, and go to Manhattan to play currently 1-5 Kansas State. But I say easiest week. What's an easy week in the Big 12? Arizona State is not a bad basketball team. They're 10-7 overall. They beat a really good St. Mary's team. They took Baylor to overtime. Yeah, Gonzaga's not top 5 Gonzaga, but they played Gonzaga tough at their place. Arizona State's got a bunch of talented freshmen mixed in with a bunch of seniors. They shoot the three well. They defend the three well. They're coached by Bobby Hurley. I'm old enough to remember his days, back-to-back championships with the Duke Blue Devils as a player. As a coach, we saw Bobby Hurley last back in the 2014-2015 season. He was coaching Buffalo at the time, and West Virginia in the first season of Press Virginia, behind a big Devin Williams performance, beat Hurley's Buffalo Bulls in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Are you sitting down? West Virginia's never played the Arizona State Sun Devils. It's just never come up. I can't imagine. That doesn't make sense, right? But this will be the first and only, barring a rematch in Kansas City, West Virginia's only game with Arizona State. Arizona State's on their last game of a road trip. West Virginia just came off of a road trip and ran out of gas on their last game. On the flip side, West Virginia is in a letdown spot. They beat Kansas at Kansas, got ranked, came back home, lost to Arizona. In Arizona, they have got their mojo together. They finally lost their first Big 12 game today at Texas Tech, but they're really good. I don't think Arizona State is at the level of Arizona. It's just wonky. 9 p.m. home game coming off of Jerry West Day. Obvious letdown spot. Talking about on paper, this is a spot where West Virginia needs to get a win. Win home games against bottom half Big 12 teams. I think Arizona State is good. I also think they're in the bottom half of the conference. And there's so much basketball to play. So this would show up if Arizona State continues to be a bottom half Big 12 team. This would show up on the resume as a bad loss. And you want to avoid bad losses. Can they do that? We'll find out together. That's it for this episode of Unreasonable Doubt. Listen on all the platforms, or just pick one: Apple Podcasts, Overcast Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, YouTube. Until next time, I'm Josh Witt. WVU for the 2024-2025 season. They have 13 wins and they have 4 losses.